Shalom, welcome to the Jewish View. My name is Rabbi Nachman Simon with the Chabad House of Dalmar, and together with my co-host, Mark Roenisch of Statewide News Service, jbizdekveli.com, and as you can see here, columnist for the Jewish Press.
Right, I'm having a lot of fun with all three assignments, and my column in the Jewish Press is called the Albany Beat, and I write about all sorts of different fun topics, including in this recent edition about the pay raise issue that's taking center stage. So,
pay raise for us?
Well, I don't know, but maybe a pay raise for our guest here.
All right, there you go.
A very special guest, Warren County Sheriff Bud York. Welcome to the Jewish View.
Thank you very much for having me.
Well, it's great for you to be here, and I'll tell you, since we're talking about pay raises, what is your salary?
You start with that.
You know, it's funny you ask. When I took the job, I didn't take it for the money, so I really don't follow it, but I think it's in 99,000 and some change, yes.
Mm-hmm. So, well, that's a good salary.
Less than some sheriffs, more than others, but certainly less than some bigger counties.
You know, before we start also, I mean, now you have a nice close-up of a picture on the screen, and everybody can see, our audience can see, that you have a black ribbon around your badge.
Why is that?
Yeah.
Yesterday, the law enforcement community lost a dear member from the community. Mm-hmm. Trooper Tim Pratt was killed in a tragic car accident while helping a truck driver. He was extra close to me because 29 years ago, at this time, I was his training officer. I trained him when he was a young trooper. So it's very, very sad, and the community lost a good public servant.
Well, I'm hearing this for the first time that you were his trainer. So let me ask you this question, just to be, not to be difficult in this difficult time, but you know, from what I understood, he was up on the tractor trailer helping a driver, you know, and he climbed up on those steps in order to get up to the door to talk to him?
I don't know if he was actually up on the steps. He could have been up on one of the steps, but he was at the ground talking to the truck driver who was lost. And
he was on the driver's side.
The driver's side.
Wouldn't it make more sense that he would have been on the passenger side and safer that way?
Well, this was a strange situation. That part of the highway is eastbound and westbound, and there's a center turn lane. The truck driver was in the center turn lane, like he was going to take a left. Wasn't sure where he was. He was actually in front of the state police barracks in Wilton, and that wasn't where he wanted to go. So the Trooper Tim Pratt actually came out of his office to go out to see if he could help him. He was going to help him go in to turn into the state police barracks so he could get back to where he wanted to go. So that's why he was on the driver's side, and he was actually hit by a vehicle going eastbound.
Yeah, the opposite direction. Yeah. Now it was dark It was dark.
It was early in the morning. Yes.
It was 6 in the morning or whatever, and you would think that there'd be headlights from the oncoming car.
Yeah, you would think so, and from what I understand, they're not. They're not charging the driver. No. I'm sure he feels terrible about it, and I think it was just a tragic accident that Tim just didn't see the car or whatever, and got out on the road and got hit. And
was that careless? I mean,
well,
does it follow protocol that you would train him to do it that way?
Well, certainly you would train anybody, just like you trained your children to look before you cross the road.
Yeah.
You know, and the truck was so big, he probably thought he was okay before he looked, and he was actually closer to the driving lane than he thought. So it was a tragic accident.
Okay. You know, there is laws, and it's interesting that, and I'm sure you know about it, it's just that when you're not the same scenario going down the thruway and there's a police car on the side of the road, it's a newer law. You're not supposed to, say, well, I'm not going on the side of the road. I'm going in my right lane. But you have to get out of the right lane and switch to the left lane.
That's correct.
To avoid any of these mishaps. Are there many mishaps? Obviously, they made a law not for 1 out of a million. There must be a good few of those.
There's been a number, just in the last 3 years, a number of at least 3 troopers who were killed on the thruway under those circumstances. That's why the law did come out for them to, if you see a police vehicle's lights, you're to go to the next lane and not to the
You
closest
see,
lane.
I would have thought that before he did anything in the road, he would have put up flares, because this was a rather narrow road, like you're saying. It's not a state throughway.
Yeah, it was just just a quick thing. He was going out to see where you're going. Can I help you? You know, it wasn't.
Any accident or anything?
You know, it was just one of those things.
Can never be too safe, too sure.
Never
right.
too safe.
And I'm sure that's one of the things you do in your you did in your training days. You know.
Yes.
You know, always remind them.
Well, you know, the audience should realize that a policeman's job, I mean, you always hear about the criminals. I mean, that's a major thing that, I mean, many policemen are killed in the United States every year. Was it 300?
I don't know the number, but there's
it's
quite
a lot.
a few.
So, you know, say, oh, there's criminals, they're dealing with criminals, but here's an innocent case. Some truck stuck on the road, there's nothing criminal about anybody doing anything wrong, and still it becomes a very dangerous situation. Yeah.
I wanted to mention something that's also sad, is that this is your third and final 4-year term as sheriff.
Well,
it's sad for me.
Sad for some. There are certainly a lot of people in Warren County that know it, and they want me to run again, but it's not sad for me. I've got almost 40 years of police service right now. When I'm finished my term, it'll be 42 years of police work. And Mark, I'm one of those people that believe in term limits. I really do.
Self-imposed term limits.
I think term limits are good. I think, look what's happening in politics today.
Yeah,
look
right.
what's happening, you know, at the presidential race. And there's just so much turmoil. I think that if there was term limits for, you know, the senators and the Congress people, and even at the state level, state assembly and
right.
state senate, you'd have less problems. There's people get ensconced in their position. I mean, look at some of these senators who had 40 and 50-year runs. I mean, that's too much power. Too much power. So I'm against somebody in power staying there.
Well, I have to tell you that there are few and far between these days that are there for that long. It used to be a lot worse in the 70s and 80s, but you know, when you look at the seniority list, most of the New York congressional delegation has been elected in the past 8 years. Most of the Assembly and the Senate, if you're there 10 years now, you're in the above the middle of the pack. I mean, it really was never that way, and the few legislators who are there the 50, 40-year terms are institutional memories. I mean, you got to have a little bit of institutional memory, I believe, so that you don't repeat the mistakes from days gone by. And you don't just have, let's say, play telephone in school, and all of a sudden it happened this way, but then when it gets repeated all those years, it all of a sudden happened a different way. But you have someone there for so long who can attest to that. I mean, in the Assembly, there's a Western New York Assemblyman, Robin Schimminger. There's a Manhattan Assemblyman, Dick Gottfried. I mean, Denny Farrell has been there a long time. So there's, you know, maybe a handful. I think there's 6 or 7 that are there for more than 30 years. It just doesn't happen anymore.
It shouldn't.
Yeah.
It shouldn't happen.
No, but people don't realize that, because it's the idea that all these legislators are there for so long is a misnomer at this point. They're just not there that long. The salary isn't there for them to sustain themselves, you know, and they do it for a while, and then they move on, and you know, even the New York City Council gets paid more. So a lot of the assemblymen will move into the New York City Council. They don't have to travel as much. Is
that what it's about, Mark? The pay? Yeah. Is that what it's about? The pay is called public service. Right. Hopefully they're not doing it for the pay.
No, but they're still committed to doing it.
I understand that. I just think, I think if you establish term limits and say, you're going to do public service and for your country, for your state, do it for this long, and then move on, let somebody else do it. Mm-hmm. I feel very strongly about that.
Go back to like the local, because you're the Warren County. What's the biggest city? Is Lake George?
Well, there's only one city, right, and that's the city of Glens Falls.
All right.
And the biggest town is the town of Queensbury. And actually, I think Queensbury's has more residents than the city of Glens Falls.
You know, when you talk about crime, though, you know, I mean, maybe we're from the capital district, but you think out in the rural areas, there's not that much crime, or, I mean, what's your the biggest issue or crime? And
the biggest issue is the same issue, not just in the big cities or the small towns or New York State. It's all across this country. The biggest problem is heroin and illegal drugs and illegal prescription drugs. That's the biggest problem, because that's driving the criminals to do crime so they can get the money to do their drugs. That's the biggest problem.
Now, in your history, you were investigator for major crimes with the New York State Police, I believe?
I was for 7 years. I was in the major crimes unit, yes.
And I understand that you had investigated 75 homicides?
That's correct.
And you had 74 of those were closed by arrest?
That's correct.
Which is the one that got away?
Well, the case that we did not make an arrest on was, and I'm sure you recall it, the news media just did a special on it a few years ago. Her name was Wilhelmina Filkins, an elderly lady that was killed over in East Greenbush.
Yeah.
We never made an arrest in that case.
Oh, that was the one, okay.
Yes.
Well, you know.
We think we know who did it, but we couldn't prove it.
Prove it. That's the big difference.
Yes.
Now, the structure of your office, I mean, how does that compare with, let's say, how Albany County Sheriff Craig Apple structures his office? I mean, I noticed we've had a few other sheriffs on that every sheriff structures their office a little bit differently. They focus on different things that are unique to their county.
You know, I can't honestly answer that because I don't know how he structures his office.
Okay.
I would think he would structure his somewhat to the same way that I do mine, because I knew Craig Apple when he was an investigator. When I was in the major crimes unit, he was an investigator, criminal investigator for the Albany County Sheriff's. And I think that his goals are the same as mine. Number one, we want to get the bad guys off the street.
Right.
The biggest thing as sheriff that us as police officers didn't have to deal with when we were police officers is the jail. That's a major job for any county, is to run a county jail. It's very expensive, and there's a lot of moving parts, and there's a lot of rules.
Well, in Albany County, they're actually making some bucks on that because they're taking inmates in from other counties like Schoharie County and others and billing
How big
those
is
counties.
your county jail?
What's your county jail?
We have a 186 bed facility.
Yeah.
This compared
And
to
how
Albany
many-
is 900. I mean.
Yeah, Albany is huge.
Huge. And when you have are you at capacity?
We average anywhere between 125 and 155. So
Oh, so you always have extra room.
there's room, but you got it. It's a very complex system, rules that you have to abide by. So you may have a 186 bed facility,
Yeah.
but if you have 160, you might be pretty close to full because you have classifications. You can't room certain inmates with other inmates. You can't, juveniles. You can't structure them with other inmates, so you may not be able to fill those beds
Male
because
and
of
female.
Correct. We have a female dorm and
Right,
3
yeah.
male dorms.
Right. This is like, I hate to say it this way, but it's like a nursing home. I mean, you can't put patients who have infectious disease near a double bed
Bingo.
room.
That's exactly right, Mark.
I'm sorry to make that comparison, but it's just, we had a few nursing home administrators on the show, so
And
it comes to mind.
We do get some revenues from
Yeah.
boarding out, but most of the boarding that you get now is from federal inmates, because across New York State, the New York State Corrections Commission has mandated certain things that you have to do, and I think each county is getting close to having new jails built because they didn't have enough space. So you're mandated it. So we used to get income from Dutchess County. Well, that doesn't happen anymore because Dutchess built some more jails, and they're not paying other counties to house their inmates. So basically, the only revenues we're making nowadays is from the federal government, from federal inmates.
And you have Raybrook nearby,
Correct.
not too far, so do they send over inmates from Raybrook? Or?
You know, I don't know where they send them from. They send them from Albany, wherever they have. Most of the ones we get are maybe even from Vermont, because or from the Vermont border,
Yeah.
from New York near the Vermont border. We may get some from there, but it's the revenues are slowly drying up with other counties.
Okay. And I wanted to also ask you about Project Lifesaver, because that's a big thing, at least on your website. So
Oh, it is big. And Mark, when I was first elected and took office in January of 2008, that was one of the first programs that I did.
And what is it about? What is it?
It is a system of tracking people who wander. So basically, when it started, we were using it for Alzheimer's and dementia. People who would walk away from their home and get lost. So we have a radio frequency wristband that we put on them. And my folks are trained that if they do get lost, we can go out and find them with that radio frequency.
So a family member would have to come to you to request that bracelet be put on their family member.
Correct, and we're using it now, Mark, with autistic children. Because some of the autistic children wander too, and
it's just not for Alzheimer's anymore.
it's not.
No.
It's not. It's anybody that has trouble keeping track of someone, and God forbid they get lost at 30 below zero,
Sure.
and they're gone. If you're lost for 2 hours, you're not going to make it.
Well, you just had
we
that
can
girl
find 'em.
from Stony Creek who was found in Hamilton County.
Right.
That's a big walk.
That's a big area.
That's a big. I don't know how you found her, but
Do you
she
think
didn't have a
You can't
bracelet.
take off these bracelets? I mean,
Well,
you'd think some kid or an autistic kid will just.
They
cut
could
it off.
probably figure out a way to do it. We do the best we can to make sure it's. I remember one person we had, the person didn't like it on, so that they made sure every day they'd hide it somewhere where that person couldn't see it, put it on their belt.
Well, it's like the child-proof caps on prescription bottles. It's the children who can get them off. It's not the adults can't.
Well, the good thing about this is, if there is a police agency that has Project Lifesaver, and there are a lot of them across the country that have it, if you want to go on vacation with your loved one, and say you want to go to California, and you want that person protected while you're in California. If that police agency in California has Project Lifesaver, I can call them and give them the frequency to the band for this person. So if they get lost in California, that sheriff's office or that police agency out there can find them with that frequency. So it's a really good idea.
This is also like putting a chip in the dog,
Yes.
and you can find the chip, the dog that way.
Same thing.
Same concept.
So it's a great program.
Do you do the yellow dot program?
We do.
Okay, because I didn't find it on the website.
We
so-
do.
Okay.
We do. We probably should advertise that more.
Could you tell us?
Explain it, yeah, because I don't even know what it is, let alone our viewers.
The Yellow Dot program is if EMS or police or somebody has somebody in a medical problem and they see this yellow dot is to warn you of some medications that they may be allergic to.
And where do you find this yellow dot?
The yellow dot, if you're driving in the car, you could put it on their driver's license, you could put it on the glove box. In your house, you put it on the refrigerator. So if
So you can have
EMS,
multiple yellow dots
all
that
over
you
the
put
place.
Exactly.
Exactly.
And then when the police, if you have
or EMS.
Or EMS, and first responders.
First
let's put it that way.
responders, yes.
When there's a medical emergency, they would see a yellow dot, and then they'll know that there's medicine that this person's on, and
That's correct. What medicines are on, what they can't take, and a lot of times people will put it on their refrigerator. Put it somewhere where first responders know to look for it. Some of them put it right on their door, or their house, or their apartment.
right. So they put the yellow dot on, but how does the first responder know what medications to look for? Or
The yellow dot will tell you that that it's somewhere in the house, and I'm not sure how you find that, but a lot of people put it in the refrigerator. So if you put it in the refrigerator or the freezer, it'll say go to the freezer, and it gives you what my medications are and what I can't take. So,
I see. Okay.
To check further.
Okay.
To check further,
Okay.
even if you call the doctors before you give them any.
Mark, I'd like to go back to that heroin addiction, because really, what you were saying is it amazes me, because Mark and I in the Jewish Hood practically have every sheriff and every DA in the capital district and around the surrounding, and they say the same thing as you. And, again, that's one thing, you know, as a rabbi, as a Jewish person, you know, like it's not the inner city kids like you were saying, and it's not the poor kids that are with these drugs. It just crosses all barriers, and unfortunately you have to deal with Jewish kids who you think, you know, they may be above drugs and alcohol, but unfortunately they're not. Is there any way to cure the problem? I mean, people even with marijuana, maybe, which is, I know, is a whole different situation. They say legalize it. You know, I see people with their drug problems, and one of my 10 jobs as I do as a rabbi visit prisons, and, you know, what did you steal for? Well, I had a drug problem, so I had to steal.
Well, don't you go up to Warren County sometimes?
Yeah, well, that's Great Meadows, isn't
It's Washington County, but you have to go through Warren County.
Warren, so yeah, so I mean, I just can't stand them when people just say, let's legalize these things. I said, you know, I see the problems. Maybe I see too much problems, but is there any way to, I mean, as a law enforcement, I mean, and it's coming from somewhere.
Yeah, but how did we mitigate it in the 70s, where it sort of went away during the 80s and 90s?
Well, it didn't go away, Mark.
It sort of.
No, it didn't go away. Heroin went away because other drugs
took its place.
Were cheaper,
like crack,
and took its place.
Cocaine, yeah.
Heroin is making a big comeback because it's so cheap now. All right, and you asked about cure.
Yeah.
If I was that good and come up with a cure, man, I'd be worshipped. You know what I mean? The best cure you can get is education, and hopefully you explain it to your kids to stay away from it. Because once somebody does heroin once, sometimes you get hooked that first time. Most generally, you can get hooked on one time with heroin, and it's a very, very, very sad outcome because these kids that get hooked on it and adults that get hooked on it, sometimes it's a long road back.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So
Narcan is something that's...
Narcan is something that has worked with people who've overdosed.
Do you use it a lot in Warren County?
Our guys have used it at least 3 times. We brought people back to life.
How many deputies do you have in there?
We have 45 road officers with 10 sergeants and 8 or 10 investigators. In the law enforcement side, we have probably about 68, and that includes the sheriff, the undersheriff, and the administrative staff. 68 people.
68, and is that full staff? Or?
That's full staff for law enforcement, and on the corrections side, we have another 90, 85, 90.
Okay, and that's full
staff
also?
Staff, yes.
So you're good. I mean, you can always use more, I guess.
Well, we're actually, from the turn of the century in 2000, we are 6 officers and 1 sergeant down from where we were. So we're doing the same job that we did at the turn of the century, a lot more work with a lot less people.
Is it, or is it doing more with less?
We're doing
more with less.
That's what I said, more with less.
Okay.
Did I say something different? I thought I said I'm doing a lot more with a lot less.
Oh, okay.
I thought I said that, but yes, absolutely.
There's a bigger population.
Well, there's more calls for service. There's certainly the population has gone up, and things are popping up all the time. New businesses.
But can you? Is it possible with with computers and with the high technology that that you can have fewer people and still accomplish the same amount?
Well, certainly the computers help, but in police work, nothing beats the one-on-one with the police officer.
Okay.
You know, out doing the one-on-ones and patrolling. You know, certainly patrolling. That's where everything comes from.
Well, let me. I got to ask you one other question. The makeup of Warren County is, you know, you have just year-round population about 66,000 residents, give or take, and during the summer, your population explodes to 250,000.
Yeah, at least.
At least.
At least, yeah.
And you know, there's a very big, there's a big tourism component and light industry, but one of the biggest populations also that I see is the Jewish community. The observant Jews come in because we have what's called the Lake George Minyan. It's over on Bloodsport Road or Bloody Pond Road.
Bloody Pond Road.
Bloody Pond Road.
Yeah.
And they set up a tent. And these people come from all over, but they know this is the magnet and they're attracted to this tent. And they, you know, they
I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah. Oh, you weren't?
I wasn't aware of that.
Oh, my
Well,
gosh.
they're not the criminals, Mark.
Well, they're not criminals, but you should still know that if there's a large gathering.
I know it now.
Now you know it now.
I know it now. I'm sure my officers know it. You know, I'm sure
Okay.
my people that are out on
I'm here to
patrol.
tell you.
All right. Well, now the
Breaking
top
news.
knows it.
Okay.
Probably the routine patrol guys know that happens.
You know,
but-
because even on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur in Albany, you know, the police are called in to just make sure that the synagogues are safe and, you know, there's no anti-Semitism and things like that. And I'm surprised that, you know, I mean, it wouldn't be up to me to say anything, but it would just be interesting, you know, that all these years that they're having this gathering of, let's say it starts at like, I don't know, 6 o'clock, and then they have different services starting at different times all the way go through 10 o'clock or 11. And they have different services at different times.
That's in the summer?
And in the summertime, yeah,
Well,
from
make
Memorial
sure
Day
they
to Labor Day.
make sure they contact me when they come up. I would love to go up and meet with them. I've become friends with Rabbi Jeff Ronald up in Glens Falls. Have you met him?
Yeah, he's a
He was-
conservative rabbi. Yeah.
Ben knew there for maybe a couple of years.
Right.
He's helped me with some of the you know, things in the jail that
Okay.
we have to. People say they want kosher meals.
Right.
You know, he's helped us, and we've also used another rabbi from New York City who's probably maybe has more experience with more people.
Rabbi Gluck?
No, not Rabbi. His name is Rabbi Heschel, Itchy Heschel. Do you know Itchy?
Okay, yes.
He comes up a lot to the Lake George area, and he's been very helpful.
Well, I have to tell you a funny story because this would happen up in Clinton County, where they stopped an observant Jew and they put him in the jail, and the guy wouldn't eat anything because they didn't have kosher food. So they call up Rabbi Gluck, and he was around at the time as the rabbinic liaison to the state police. And he says,
I know Rabbi Gluck.
Oh, you do?
Yeah,
Okay.
yes.
So so they get him on the phone and they say, Rabbi, I'm holding up a cheese sandwich. Can you bless it for us over the phone? And Rabbi goes, no, it doesn't work that way. And he says, you got to go to Stewart's, get an apple, a banana, and a pear, and give it to him, and he'll be fine, and you know he'll eat. So that's what they did, and he resolved the problem like that.
That was
But
many years ago, probably.
80s, you know, everything in my life is in the 80s were a great story time for me.
Well,
yeah,
certainly we
story
now
time.
have, you know, we have kosher meals for those that require it in jails, yes.
Oh, great.
Yes.
Okay, well, that's very nice to
Well,
know.
hopefully there's no
Unfortunately,
Jews
you know,
over there. Yeah,
hopefully you don't have to use them, but
Yeah.
it's nice to know.
You know, you're talking about Lake George this summer, so you have to hire temporary police officers? I was always wondering. I mean, it's 4 times as much. And
Well, we do, well, just recently, we a few years back, my staff came to me and said we need to, because we were short of staff, we needed to keep those guys on the road. So we hired part-time police officers to do our marine patrol on Lake George. Lake George is, you know, that's what drives all of the tourists to come in. So we have retired police officers, retired state police, retired
Right.
police officers from other PDs that work for us on the lake.
Now, I camp up in 13th Lake.
Oh,
That's-
up in Johnsburg.
The Johnsburg,
North-
North Creek,
North
yeah.
Creek, North
North
River
River,
area.
right.
Yeah.
And that's my favorite place. But I'll tell you, there was one time I went up there, and now this is a DEC campground.
Right.
So it's first come, first serve. But I went up there, I've been going up there many times, and just one time I went up there and I didn't have a good feeling about some of the other campers there. So I called DEC, and they had 2 people patrolling the entire Adirondacks, 2 DEC enforcement.
Really, just 2?
2, and they did come, but it was many hours later. They had to get from wherever they were over there, but you know.
Well, Mark, anytime
you know,
you're
so
up in Warren
now-
County, you can call the sheriff's
Now
office.
I got
They'll
your
come.
number.
Absolutely.
Okay.
We certainly can help. Us or the state police would be glad to come up if there's any problems.
Well, I really didn't know at that time, you know, who to call or what to do, and now I'm just hoping that I can inform others that,
Yes.
you know, it's the DEC, it's the sheriff, it's the state police.
Yes.
So it's a lot of. Now, are you grooming anyone to take over when you retire?
Well, you know, that's funny. I'm not a real politician. I know I had to run for it. I'm a police officer,
Yeah.
and there are a couple of men from my office that want to run for sheriff. It's not up to me to groom anybody. It's up
Okay.
to me to show them, you know, what I do, and if either of them get elected,
Have at it.
you know,
Yeah.
have at it. Both great people, and So, no,
Oh,
in the
yeah,
old
okay.
days, they used to do that. You know, the sheriff would
Right.
groom his guy.
Well,
and-
that's what the undersheriff is, like the
Right.
heir
My-
apparent, and
my undersheriff, Sean Lamry, is running, and he would be a great sheriff.
oh, so he's one of the
He-
two.
He
That's-
is, and,
okay.
and my major, my third in command, Jim LaFar, is running, is talking. They're talking about it. It's a little early yet. It's another 3
Of
years.
course.
I'm not done
Out the
yet.
door yet, right.
But I got huge respect for both of these guys, and they have to go through the political process just like I did.
And do you think Larry Cleveland will rise up again?
Who knows what Larry Cleveland is going to do?
I know that,
You
but-
know, I would think that the last time he ran, I mean, he was an incumbent when I beat him the
Right.
first time, and then he came back my third time and did basically a smear campaign on the internet, and he got beat pretty bad.
He did, because negative campaigning doesn't work well
I don't
in
think it
Warren
works.
County,
You know,
yeah.
I wouldn't.
Right.
I don't like negative about anybody. I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do and what I've done, and if you like what I've done, vote for me.
And they did, and they have.
And they did.
Yeah.
So I hate this smear stuff, and I see it in the national politics and the local politics, and they all do it. I don't know why. There must be somebody telling them that it works. Doesn't work for me, and I don't think most people like it.
Well, in some areas, like in Brooklyn, where I come from, it works. But in bucolic Warren County,
I
it
come from
doesn't.
Warrensburg. I don't work that way for me.
Well, Warrensburg has the largest flea market in the summertime.
The garage sale.
The
yeah.
garage sale?
We had it a couple weeks ago. Yeah.
Oh, and do you?
I live right in the middle of it.
You
so-
live in the middle of
Yeah.
it. So traffic control, you make sure that it's.
Yeah, we make sure we have officers there. Yes.
If not
Mark,
yourself.
I think we're out of time.
We are, so
We're
fast.
having such a good
Okay.
time over here.
Well,
We
didn't
have
get
3
into
more years to
I
talk
didn't-
to the
I didn't
sheriff.
get into
before-
Log Bay Day.
Retired.
The
We can
incident,
talk
so-
next time about
Okay.
that. We're having a
All right.
meeting shortly on it, so I'll be more
All
than
right.
happy to come back.
Okay.
All right,
thank
very
you.
good. Well, thank you very much, Sheriff, and you're doing a great job, and do it with good health.
Well,
Yes,
thank you.
continued
Appreciate
success.
it.
Thank you.
Thank you.